It's Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate. Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Dylan in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and balling like I'm 2-6 in the blue kicks. Watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
And welcome back to Booze, Bets, and Ball, Penn State football podcast brought to you by Big Banter Sports. We get to talk about 7-1 Penn State because somehow they survived Indiana. 33-24 in what came down to a final 2-minute touchdown pass from Drew Aller to Keandre Lambert-Smith, in which he did, in fact, throw it deep. So that's out there for that. But moving on to this week, we get to talk about Penn State's trip to Maryland, which is always an interesting matchup. So we have Lee from the Turtleheads, the Maryland podcast of Big Banter. So before we get into anything, Lee, why don't you tell everyone where they can find your guys' show?
Yeah, we're on Spotify, Apple. We're not on YouTube yet, but you can find us on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, or Instagram as under Turtleheads Talk. So give us a follow. We follow these guys. They're always a good follow and a good listen. So hopefully you guys listen to us an episode or two.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive in a little bit to this. Blow it up. There we go. All right. So some game info here, basic stuff. Penn State 11th in the college football poll, by the way. That came out Tuesday night. First poll, 7-1 against Maryland, 5-3. 3:30 kick on Fox. So this is Penn State's first, I think, non-noon kick on Fox in a really long time. The last one I remember was, there's probably more before that, but the 2017 Ohio State game was the first one that I thought of. The line started, I think, at -10 Penn State, down to 8.5 when I checked today. Matchup predictor has it at an 83.1% chance for Penn State to win. Weather's looking pretty good, 56 degrees, partly cloudy from what I saw down in the DC area. Tyler will probably know more about that than the rest of us. But some quick stuff about Maryland. Started 5-0, then has lost the last 3 straight. Offense, as usual, pretty good, over almost 33 points per game, over 400 yards per game. Defense, pretty solid. I think this is top 30, both numbers, 20.4 points per game and 340 yards per allowed. Sacks pretty good there, not too bad, and 12th actually in sacks forced this year. So decent pass rush for Maryland this season. So diving a little bit into this, let's start with what is going on with Maryland, where every year September is the greatest thing ever, and then one loss kind of turns into 3 or 4. We kind of thought Maryland would actually be ranked at the time this game came around and possibly only have 1 loss. So what's kind of gone on here the last month or so?
Your guys' guess is as good as mine, unfortunately. I think we both were thinking 7-1. We had you guys and then Michigan coming up a couple weeks after, and we've just laid 2 absolute eggs. Loxley in his 5-6 years as Maryland head coach is 0-6 after a bye week. And most of those games after a bye have been games we should have won, especially this one this year. We're kind of in I don't want to say turmoil. This is kind of what Maryland does, but this was kind of like our year. We just had Tyrese Chambers left the program. I saw today or the day before. I don't know what fits related to what's going on now, but I feel like that's kind of how kids are these days. They hit a little bit of diversity and they're just quick to bounce. So I don't know all the details on that, but definitely 2 teams going in opposite directions, I'd say.
No, I don't know about that much, but
you guys are 1 and ranked at number 11. We're 5-3 and unranked, so we were expecting maybe 7-1 at this point.
The trajectories may be different, but the direction.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe bad use of a term, I suppose.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So tell us the last 2 weeks. So 27-24 lost to Illinois. So I guess that was on the 14th, and then 33-27 against Northwestern. What contributed to that? They gave up more points against those teams that aren't really the best offenses compared to how they were doing earlier in the year. So what do you see as contributing to going wrong here the last couple of weeks, specifically against some sub?
I honestly think it's going back to how it's been in the past couple of years. We've had a lot of unnecessary penalties, just bad, just not thinking, really. We had a bunch of unnecessary roughness, plays after, the whistle, and that's kind of been Loxley's MO with his teams. We kind of beat ourselves, for lack of a better term. We had no business 2 weeks ago winning. We should have lost that game. We came out really good last week and then just kind of went flat. We thought our run game was going to be our strong point this year. If you look, Colby McDonald and Roman Hemby both averaged like 7 yards a carry last week. But baby Tua, as we call him on the pod when he doesn't play very well, he threw for 47 times. That's entirely too much for as good of a running game and as good of an offensive line as we've got. We were averaging, like I said, 6, 7, 8 yards a carry. So play calling, I don't know. I think we're just overlooking teams, to be honest with you. Everybody was kind of on the hype train for us, and, we were overlooking it and probably looking forward to you guys, and just came out, got busted in the mouth.
Talk about a little bit those running backs. So Hemby, 88 carries, McDonald, 37, and Littleton, 58. So they're really kind of spreading the ball around to those guys. Which one do you see as the most effective? Who should the Penn State fans be most concerned about?
I think Roman Hemby's our best all-around back. It's kind of he's kind of that mix of McDonald and Littleton. He's got the power to run when he needs to, but he can be elusive at times. Colby McDonald's been a bright spot this year. He didn't get much in terms of playing time last year. He's been really good. And Littleton, honestly, this year's kind of been not as good as we were expecting him to be, as we call him, not so Littleton. So I think Roman Hemby is our top guy. If you had to list them, it probably goes Hemby, and then McDonald and Littleton are maybe 1 or 2A and 2B. But I don't think we're using them enough, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So Tulia's kind of turned into Sean Clifford in a sorts of, he just seems like he's always there. So we kind of know what to expect with him, but there's been a lot of changes with kind of the pass catchers, transfers. I know the one tight end left for Alabama, and yet a couple of receivers go to the NFL. So what's kind of that unit been like? Because Penn State's pass defense obviously, struggle a little bit with Marvin Harrison. Everyone does that. And then
I don't think anybody really defends him well.
Yeah, and gave up a couple big plays then to Indiana in the pass game. So who are the new guys kind of stepping up now for that group?
Yeah, I mean, Deichus, our tight end, he was there last year. He's good, but again, we do spread the ball out, but we've had really untimely drops, and that's been kind of our one downfall as a receiving core. Jayshon Jones dropped a touchdown last week. We settled for a field goal, and we lost by 6. I mean, that's not but 4 points there, and then you only need a field goal, not a touchdown. So really just kind of inconsistent. We've got big play guys. If they're able to catch the ball, I think they're just trying to catch it and looking to do something before they actually do. So, Talia has been putting up numbers, and they're doing very well, but I think it's just those untimely drops is really what's gotten us in trouble this year, and inconsistency.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
We're talking to ourselves.
Yeah, so I haven't watched many of those games. I caught a little bit of a few of them, but you guys look better than we have the last couple of weeks.
Well, can't be by much.
Yeah, not by much, I don't think. I guess kind of flipping to the defense, Maryland's defense, actually, I've noticed, especially through 3 quarters against Ohio State, has improved a lot compared to years past. What's kind of been the difference there? Obviously, I think the sack numbers are way up for them, and the points per game, I think, is down from last year. So what's kind of been the new driving force there that's changed things around?
I think it's just kind of been consistency when it comes to our DBs. I mean, we had Deontay Banks went to the league last year. We got Bo Braid, Dante Trader. He's been playing well. Tarheeb Still has been playing really well. Our linebackers, I mean, I'd say they're probably mediocre. I wouldn't say that, are going out and blowing anybody off the field. And like you said, our defensive line's been good, but I think when we need a sack is when we really kind of struggle to get one. We might get one on first or second down. We need that third down to maybe force somebody out of field goal range. Our guys really just can't really get home when they have to. But they have been better than we've seen in years past, I will say.
They're middle of the Big Ten in most stats. It looks like it's third in turnover margin though. So how are they? What are they doing to generate turnovers, or is it the offense not giving them up? They have 6.
Yeah, well, that's a loaded question. I feel like we have untimely turnovers on the offensive end, just like the interception Talia threw last week. We just have really good coverage guys for the most part. I think, putting themselves in good spots, and I think just like everybody else, people aren't necessarily going to tackle first or trying to punch the ball out and giving up yards, and you're bound to get a couple of those every now and then as much as it happens. So the turnover margin has been good, but I think it could be better. We have bad turnovers on offense, but the defense certainly does force some. There've been a couple of skewed games where we force 4 or 5 interceptions and don't give anything up as well. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I got to show this because it's a little interesting, but Penn State under James Franklin at Maryland is 3-0. They're averaging 52 points per game. Maryland is averaging less than a touchdown. On the flip side, the 2 times Maryland's beat Penn State has been in Happy Valley. So what has kind of gone on, do you think, that Maryland at home against Penn State has just not been competitive since they've joined the Big Ten?
I feel like we just lay eggs against the big 3 teams every single year. Now, I mean, we play Ohio State well. I think we caught you guys in Happy Valley on the COVID year. Mm-hmm. But honestly, and it's kind of been a point of contention amongst everybody, just Maryland fans don't necessarily show up on time, and they don't stay for full games, which, you guys know as well as I could. A crowd can either get you really into a game, or if there's nobody there, a few things start going wrong, and they're just the people that do show up, you're already down 21-28-0, and there's no energy in the stadium. So I think the fans kind of play a little bit into that, but I just think most of the time you guys just have a much better team than we do, honestly, if I'm being quite honest.
Some people attribute the fan thing to us almost losing to Indiana last week, so I don't think you can overstate that, actually.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. So kind of now that there's 3 losses in a row here, what's kind of the pulse now? Like, is the crowd, you guys still expect the crowd to get up for this game and it be jam packed, or is kind of a lot of the air been let out of the balloon after, especially losing to Northwestern?
Yeah. Me and the guys are talking we're nervous. We might not even make a bowl game right now. Honestly. I mean, look at our schedule. Where's our easy win come at? We have you guys. We got Michigan. I think that we go to Nebraska, and Rutgers isn't Rutgers anymore.
Right.
So, I mean, there's 4 tough games. You got to scrape one of them out. I think our best chance are obviously against Nebraska or Rutgers, but Rutgers is at Rutgers this year. So, start out 5-0. We were about as high as we could have been, and we were like, oh man, this might be the year we actually do something going in that Ohio State game. We played really well the first 3 quarters, and then after that, it's just been a steep, slippery slope we've been on. So I don't know. I'm still holding hope that we make a bowl game, but college basketball season's only about 6 days away. So
we don't look at that. Yeah, that's not something we dig too deep into. But
have you missed a bowl game? Are you ready to get rid of Loxley?
I mean, he came in and inherited a terrible situation. I mean, he came in right after the Jordan McNair death, and I mean, he's put us in a much better spot than. But at the end of the day, like, Maryland's never going to go out and compete for a national championship. People can say what they want. I think he's extremely overpaid. I mean, we're paying him like $6 million a year. I think we should be putting money into other programs besides that. I don't think it's quite the fire him yet. But if he has another couple of seasons where we start off hot and then kind of do this dip again, then maybe. But for Maryland fans, we go 7-5, 8-4. We're tickled to death, honestly.
Gotcha. Nate, you got anything else before we get to some predictions here?
It is so funny how like we're the same, but we're a little bit above, but it's like kind of the same frustrations between both programs, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you guys at least most of the time go out and compete. I mean, I did see a crazy stat. I think when you guys played, was it Ohio State, where you guys just tend not to play very well against the other top 2 teams in the conference, just like we do. But you guys normally eke out a win or at least have a close nail biting game, unlike we do most of the time.
Yeah, but then it's not against Michigan often, but then you said too, like poor performance after a bye. That's like Penn State's known for that under James Franklin. So whatever, like the Franklin Loxley family tree is doing, they need to fix it after.
Maybe it's something in Maryland. I mean, Franklin was at Maryland for a little bit, so maybe it's just like, I don't know. You get 2 weeks to get ready for somebody, and then you just lay an egg. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it is. Doesn't make any sense. All right, so let's dig into this prediction thing for Saturday. Obviously, the line is 8.5. I'm kind of somewhere. I don't know what Penn State is right now after watching the last 2 weeks, after being fairly confident the first 6. I kind of like the original line. I'm somewhere in the 30 to 20 range, 31-21, somewhere in there. I feel like that is a likely outcome. So I'm going to go with that for this game.
Who do you want to go? You want Lee to go next?
Anyone could go. Go ahead.
I'll change my score prediction up because I had 31-21 when you were thinking about it. I'll go 33-24. Actually, no. Let me go 33-27. So Maryland covers maybe. But I'm probably going to tease Maryland to like plus 13.5. I'm not gonna hit that in the plus 8.5 line probably.
Okay. I don't know. It's like, who knows anymore? 2 big plays and 14 points against Indiana, and I'm sure that Maryland has better playmakers, and I know that they have better wide receivers than whatever the hell Indiana had. So let's go. Let's do the 33-24. I'll do what Lee was going to do there, and I'll just follow each other around.
My heart says like 38-13, but my head says we lose. So I don't know.
Well, my heart says Maryland blows you guys out too, but we'll not listen to my head very often. So
I think either it's like a nail biter, last minute something happens, or Penn State wins handedly by like 20 plus. So.
Yeah, it's either gonna be a 1-score game or we're gonna lose probably by about 28. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one. Excited to see how this one goes. Obviously, both teams would like to get right this week, so pretty dynamic spot for both teams, especially with Penn State having Michigan the week after at home. You wonder if they look ahead or not a little bit. I know there's a lot of players on Penn State's roster from Maryland, so that tends to not happen, but it is something I think you got to keep in mind with this game.
You guys haven't noticed Michigan's assistant on the sidelines any of your all's opponents so far this year, have you?
No, not that we know of, but
Out he was supposedly on the Central Michigan sideline. Yeah. I don't know if it was earlier this year or what, but that was a terrible disguise. It looks exactly like him, and I'm most positive it's him.
Yeah, that is.
Wayne basically said that it was him, right? And they're trying to figure out how he got there, but that's a whole other, like we
don't have enough time to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll run out of time, definitely. All right, Lee. Well, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Got it.
Thank you.
All right. We'll check you out later. See you. All right. Before we get on to the drink of the week, we have to talk about something that interests me when I looked it up, and it's this. So Penn State's on the road this week.
Yeah.
Drew Aller's numbers home versus away are just I know like Ohio
State. Holy shit.
I know Ohio State is in there, so obviously the best team you play is gonna, I don't know what to really make of this. It's quite interesting.
The other 2 games were Illinois and Northwestern, so like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting to just see the difference as what's gone on here. They obviously have to let them a little more loose this week, I feel like, because Maryland might put up some points. So I think we need to see a little bit more of what we saw at the end of the Indiana game this week. But right now, it doesn't look so good for Drew Aller on the road. When I looked this up, I was actually surprised it's this bad.
Hold on. I tweeted this. Yep. So if you, just because people don't understand what's good and bad and things, right? And like, contextualizing it. So those numbers are correct. And then Iowa is 44% passing. So he is worse than the Iowa quarterback. and they do 5.0 yards per attempt. So basically, we are a worse offense than Iowa passing wise away. So that's crazy. It's bad.
I've never seen a split like this really for a quarterback. I mean, you can kind of see it in sports like baseball, where a batter's eye comes into effect and the dimensions are different in terms of the outfield walls. But to actually see this for a college quarterback, this kind of stark difference is quite interesting to say the least.
No interceptions though.
Yeah, that is
I'm joking because
this is just like, it's blowing my mind how bad that is.
Yeah, I know there's 2 less games in here, and the two, obviously you could say the 2 games at home that made the difference were Delaware and UMass. Sure,
not take those games out, and I guarantee you the home splits.
Yeah, let's see.
Because he didn't have a touchdown against Delaware, did he?
I think he had 1.
No, he had 2. Okay, so here you go.
He was rushing against Delaware.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. So West Virginia completion, just do completion percentage. West Virginia 73, Delaware forget about, but it was 80. UMass 69, Indiana 65. So give or take like 60.
What was Iowa? 70.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Iowa 65 too. I missed that one. So he's north of 65% in every game at home. Yards per attempt. West Virginia 11. Iowa 4.6. That was really shit. UMass 7, and then Indiana 6.8. So way better, still way better than the other games. And then Northwestern, he was 55% and 6.4. Iowa 45% and 5.9, and then Ohio State 42% and 4.5. So yeah, it's it is crazy different. 50, he loses 10% on his completions and about a yard every throw. So that's whatever, 30, 35 yards a game, something like that.
Yeah, just insane numbers when I noticed them today going through some stuff. So something to keep in mind this Saturday, obviously with Penn State on the road. All right, that's enough football talk, I guess, for today. We got 22 minutes of football talk. That's more than enough. Let's
hold on.
Oh,
so do we think that the students showing up or not has any impact on the performance of the team?
No, that's straight bullshit.
No, I was going to get into that after we do this, but
okay. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, but all right, let's dive into this, Tyler. Let's let you.
All right, before we get to that talk, obviously we got a drink of the week with a game coming on.
Yeah.
Again, we're all, if you can't tell by our voices, enthusiasm. It's kind of that point of the season where we don't know if we actually are any good, if we want to even keep watching Penn State. So that always calls for tequila. And when in doubt, always go tequila sunrise. 3:30 game. It's going to be pretty good weather down in the DC, Maryland area. So make a little tequila sunrise. Get the 1.5 ounces of tequila, 3/4 of an ounce of triple sec, 2.5 ounces of orange juice, and 1/2 ounce of grenadine. Throw it in a cup. Gives a nice, pretty image. Tastes pretty good. Might have a hangover, but hey, you might need it watching this team the rest of the year. So
yeah, it's a good point. We don't know what we're getting anymore, so go to the hard stuff.
No matter what happens, next week, we'll all be together. It'll be fun. One way.
That'll be the first time ever, won't it?
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. Shit, I guess I can't black out before that game then. And his son.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe Nelly will actually show up. He claims he will, but
he won't.
Yeah, not holding my breath on that. Before we go, we got 2 things to talk about, obviously. And the first one is, I guess I'm going to defend the student section here because they've gotten a lot of crap this week by pretty much anyone who has a platform, whether it be a website, a podcast, anything. The showing wasn't up to par, I guess is the best way to put it, this past weekend against Indiana. And I mean, look, first of all, people are saying they should reduce the capacity of the student section because 6,000 kids didn't show up on time. Look, it was a noon game against a 2-5 team the week after you had a really sad showing on offense against Ohio State. It was really nice out, and it was Halloween weekend. There are a lot of hungover people who probably were not up by noon. look, Tyler and I are 2 years removed from this life. We're very aware that it happens. And I just feel like punishing them by reducing capacity because they show up a little late to one game is really ridiculous. And the second point was the fact that it somehow 7,000, because it was pretty much just by the time the game started, I guess like right at the two top where it kind of slopes up towards the two under the what is it called?
Like upper deck areas of it.
The upper deck, yeah, the suites. I meant the suite, yeah, the boxes and the suites. Like that somehow, that was why Penn State went down to the wire with Indiana. Since James Franklin took over, Penn State, after a loss, 2014, 18-13 loss to Michigan. 2015, 27-14 win at home against Buffalo. 2016, arguably a top 3 Penn State team of this century, a 7-point win at home versus Temple. 2017, a 3-point loss on the road against a really bad Michigan State team. 2018, a home loss at home against a not so good Michigan State team. 2019, a 7-point win against an average Indiana team. 2020, a 13-point loss at home against Ohio State. No fans, whatever. 2021, the billion overtime loss to Illinois, 20-18. Last year, a 45-17 win over Minnesota. That's pretty much the only time Penn State has showed up and played. It was wide out.
Pretty much only time. That one kind of works against you a little bit because it's like, they came and they were so hyped that
right. But the point is, let's not blame the students for what happened this past Saturday or any time Penn State didn't show up after a loss after the first loss of the season the next week, because clearly this is something that is a philosophical thing with Franklin and the coaching staff that they just don't have figured out yet how to get their guys truly motivated to come back the next week. So I just think the blame going on the students this week has been really ridiculous. They should not be punished with less capacity. They are not the reason this game was close. There's other reasons. Halloween weekend, the team never shows up after the first loss of the season. I just thought a lot of the takes this week were really, really ridiculous.
I agree. So what I do think there's some, I don't know, emotional element or cultural element when you win a bunch of games and you're like riding on the top of the world, and the emotions get very high in a very positive way when Penn State's doing good, right? Everyone's happy and doing the things and like they're being snarky to the media and stuff. And then when they lose, they fall into a very deep pit emotionally, right? Like you watch the press conferences after those games. Those are very hard to get out of, right? And the big swings in emotion, like, I don't know, when you're winning, it's great. But then when you're losing, to dig out of there, it takes a couple of weeks. And I think that's what we're seeing. Like, I don't know, when Nick Saban's teams are winning and they're losing, he's an asshole both ways, typically, right? And I think there's something to be said for that consistency and that more kind of level-headedness, so that when you do run into some adversity, right, then you can fight back from it a little bit if you're not in the gutter. That's all. I think it's a cultural thing, kind of.
I completely agree. I mean, this is a dumb argument. Even it's a dumb thing to talk about. These kids played with like 5,000 people in attendance in high school. It's not going to affect how they're playing. Yes, I think a big crowd probably could get them amped up and get them out of their funk, like Nate was just saying, like they're going to be in that funk after losing a game. But, I mean, that's not on the students to make happen. So if they can't do that themselves, so the coaching staff can't do it, that's a whole different issue with the team. The students are not at fault for any of this.
And look at 14 Indiana points were on, the kind of fake screen where one of our safeties got burned, and then the corner blitz that nobody picked up the wide receiver for. So maybe the fans were astute enough to be like, hey, screen fake, or hey, cover that guy, and it would have made a difference, but I don't think so.
Yeah, and the other thing is, from some of the people that I saw on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, pushing back against these takes was, hey, the stands elsewhere throughout the stadium weren't all filled, but the difference is because it's sporadic, because you have a set ticket where you sit, it doesn't look as empty because it's dotted instead of, just everyone's down and then you fill up. So it looks more empty. Like, everyone else, blame everyone else then too. Limit the capacity of the whole stadium. Blame the whole fans why the game wasn't that good. Yeah, like I just think it looks more noticeable because of the way the student section is set up in terms of it's like a first come first serve thing in terms of instead of having your own set reserved seat, so it looks worse. I just think it's dumb.
I agree. Was that the only one more thing?
Yeah, one more thing. So we went over 1,000 downloads a couple weeks ago. I think Big Banter deserves a huge props here because our numbers have gone up tremendously since we joined them, and I'm really glad we did it. It's helped a lot. So shout out to you guys for helping out. Shout out to them. We're actually way past this number now because we haven't really been together the past couple weeks. So this was the first time I got to share this, but really solid job by everyone.
Sorry.
For something we put very little effort into and
very little
preparation. It's good to see that people care.
Yeah. All right. So we'll be back next week, hopefully talking about a Penn State win so we could kind of try to get excited for this Michigan matchup. So yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks again to Lee for stopping by, giving us some insight on Maryland and what's going on with them, because our record might be better, but I feel like the moods are pretty
similar. Yeah, it was really funny to see that, actually.
Yeah, it was. And I owe Tyler an apology because half of this was because the Iowa game in 2021 was at 4 on Fox, and I don't know why. I guess I just wanted to get that game out of my memory as fast as possible, but I missed that. So thanks for the correction there. But
anytime.
That's gonna do it for this one, and we'll see you next week.